Lyrics are the true heart of any good song. While many artists can get by on just a strong melody, lyrics are what take a song over the top. Instead of just being a catchy tune, the messages behind some of the music's greatest works have the capacity to connect with you throughout your lifetime. Then again, you can spend 20 lifetimes trying to figure out what these tunes are actually about. A lot of the time, lyrics come out of the woodwork that seem to be talking about something prophetic, but mean absolutely nothing outside of the context of the song. There's nothing necessarily wrong with writing lyrics with a more abstract bent to them, but these lyrics sometimes go too far the other way and become so confusing for the audience to decipher. Whether or not these words hold any water, they do possess the right percussive value to fit perfectly with the tune they are part of, even if you aren't sure what the message is. That doesn't diminish the passion behind some of these tunes. Regardless of their capacity to thrill us, the lyrics behind these songs have continued to perplex the hell out of the listeners for years now. I am Kirsten from What Culture, and these are 8 song lyrics that nobody understands. Number 8, Galileos Queen. Bohemian Rhapsody really served as a turning point for Queen. With absolutely no artistic reservations, Freddie Mercury composed a song that would not only be the band's masterpiece, but a watershed moment for pop music in general. Amid the artistic brilliance on display, the confusion begins at what is arguably the song's greatest moment. After hearing a man confessing a murder to his mother and leaving town, we come out of the guitar solo and are greeted with operatic grandeur from Mercury. Instead of continuing with the engaging story we were expecting, Mercury offers up surrealistic images of seeing silhouettes and doing the fandango. Though these could still be treated as abstract word painting, the desperate cries of Galileo jump out as genuine oddity in the lyric sheet. While the lyrical prowess of the band is limitless, it is a bit puzzling what 16th century astronomy has to do with the murder the character has committed. Mercury was never too candid about the lyrics behind his opus, offering fans to form their own interpretations of the song. Despite Galileo's uncertain involvement, there's no denying that this song has some of the greatest feats of musicianship that rock has to offer. Number 7, Every Verse of Hash Pipe by Weezer. Weezer were not in the best of situations at the turn of the millennium. After coming out with a stellar debut album, the band were torn apart by fans and critics over their angsty follow-up Pinkerton. While many fans look back on the album with fond memories, the band decided to take things back to basics for their next outing. Once the pounding riff of Harsh Pipe blasted through the speakers, it seemed that Weezer finally knew how to rock once again. So what does Rivers Cuomo want us to chant along with him? Well, a lot of things, none of which actually relate to each other. Cuomo takes us on a ride throughout each verse as he talks about people on his tail, the flavour of knee stockings, and the children's cereal tricks. With all this in mind, Cuomo offers a chorus suggesting that you kick him as he sits around with his hash pipe. It has since gone down in legend that Cuomo wrote this tune after taking a few shots of tequila along with a bunch of Ritalin pills. Judging by the inconsistent images of every line, I'm inclined to believe that some chemical assistance certainly contributed to making these surrealistic scenarios. Number 6, I Wish I Could Eat Your Cancer When You Turn Black by Nirvana. Kurt Cobain was never one to dwell on his lyrics for too long. As has been stated by his former bandmates, Cobain's main focus for a song was a melody, with the words being thrown together much later in the writing process. Given the more abstract writing tools, Heart-Shaped Box started off being fairly straightforward. The chorus's lament of people waiting for a new complaint seems to be a direct jab at the paparazzi storm that was following the band around at the time. The verses seem to tell a different story, offering up more romantic sentiments that are both sexual and devotional at the same time. However, the line about eating cancer seems to bring a weird, ominous turn to the song's love theme. Could it be talking about taking away pain, or could Cobain be talking about literally eating a malicious disease? Unfortunately, Cobain is no longer with us to comment on the matter. Over the years, many people close to Cobain have tried to explain it further, offering up everything from his unwanted celebrity status to his wife Courtney Love's sexual organs. Whether it be vulgar or just innocent wordplay, the tune never fails to instill strange sonic pictures in your mind. Number 5, Yesterday I Woke Up Sucking a Lemon by Radiohead. After Radiohead conquered the alternative music realm with their legendary album OK Computer, Tom York wanted to take the band in a different direction for their next project. Looking to strip their sound bare, the band immersed themselves in complex rhythmic structures and synthetic instrumentation to produce Kid A, which stands as one of their most brilliant releases. The opening track, Everything's in Its Right Place, does a great job giving the listeners a taste of that vast sonic wall of synthesizers. While the title hits you from the start, the song suddenly takes a jarring turn when York starts talking about waking up the day before sucking on a lemon. When you break it down, there's no discernible way in which the lemon feeding correlates to everything being in its right place. On the other hand, York has somewhat of a method for his lyrical madness. When trying to find new writing techniques, York decided on most of the lyrics by scrambling together a bunch of his ideas and putting them together, making the actual lyrical sheet feel randomly generated. This song is one of the greatest openings to any Radiohead project, but good luck trying to find the deeper meaning behind sucking on sour fruit. Number 4, If I Go It Will Be Trouble, If I Stay It Will Be Double by The Clash. When most punk bands were breaking up or going through problems, The Clash transitioned into the 80s with the greatest of ease. After unleashing their spectacular double album, London Calling, the band had a fruitful career once MTV arrived with famous videos like Rock the Casbah. However, there were also a few questionable lyrics thrown together during this period. The band had always balanced their pop-centric material and political tirades in songs, but Should I Stay or Should I Go shows a narrator with unfound confusion in deciding whether to leave his girlfriend or not. Mick Jones starts to weigh his options in the middle of the tune. This builds to him saying there will be trouble if he leaves, while also being trouble if he stays. While many can identify with Jones's indecision, the lyrics almost answer their own question. This is a classic lesser of two evils scenario, but our protagonist seems to still be confused as to which side to choose. To add even more confusion, Joe Strummer sings the backing vocals in Spanish as Jones continues to dwell on his romantic woes. The main question to this song seems to have a clear answer, but the insistence behind the lyrics hints at something unclear beneath the surface. Number 3, Are We Human or Are We Dancer? The Killers. The Killers are one of the most interesting acts to come out of 2000s rock. The band's throwback sound to the 80s gave the pop world some of the greatest songs of the decade, from the aching desperation of Mr. Brightside to the wistful nostalgia of When You Were Young. Once the band returned from a well-earned break, Human was the first taste most fans were given as the band's new direction. Though the song stood out as a great single cut, Brandon Flowers' questions to his audience still has most fans scratching their heads. Are we human or are we dancer? I mean, people can be both, correct? When pressed about the nonsensical line, Flowers admitted to grabbing the dancer idea from writer Hunter S. Thompson. While paying homage to great literature writers is certainly nothing new in pop music, it also doesn't necessarily give more meaning to your song instantaneously. In recent years, Flowers has admitted that the lyric doesn't even make any sense from a grammatical point of view either. The song goes on with Flowers still on his knees looking for the answer to his question. Whether or not he finds that answer, most of us are still having a hard enough time figuring out what the question is. Number 2, Slowly Walking Down the Hall, Faster Than a Cannonball. Oasis. By 1996, Oasis had reached out from the crown as kings of Britpop and succeeded with flying colours. With hit after hit coming from the band's sophomore album What's the Story Morning Glory, the time was right for Britain to meet their new gods of rock. Even though each song seemed to speak to the working class soul, that didn't make every single Oasis lyric great. Take Champagne Supernova for example. The song has the greatest hazy vibe you could ask for, as the band spends the better part of 8 minutes lulling you into a mood that feels like the perfect sonic equivalent of getting stoned. Then again, the lyric tying each verse together still causes confusion to this day. Liam Gallagher's intonation of someone slowly walking down a hall while also being faster than a cannonball leaves the audience with many more questions than it does answers. Instead of having to contemplate the nature of a cannonball's speed, the band jumped right past it to ask, where were you while we were getting high? From the word go, this song was meant to encapsulate every euphoric feeling of being stoned with your friends. The line may not mean much in this context, but it may be one of the most beautiful human utterances when you're inebriated. Number 1, All of I Am The Walrus. The Beatles. At the peak of the 60s, John Lennon was quickly becoming one of the greatest songwriters of the decade alongside Paul McCartney. With the Beatles off the road, the band spent their time in the studio crafting some of the most beautiful tunes the decade would ever produce. On the other hand, Lennon also earned the distinction of being one of the first musical trolls. Upon hearing that schools were analysing Beatles lyrics to decipher their hidden meanings, Lennon came up with I Am The Walrus, specifically to confuse his listeners. While the song is one of the most experimental tunes the bands would write, the lyrics seem to not make sense from front to back. One minute Lennon is talking about sitting on a cornflake, another he's kicking back in his garden. The most mind-boggling line is the proclamation of himself as a walrus and the Eggman, which he had taken from the writings of Lewis Carroll. People were still determined in finding the meaning behind this song, which led Lennon to double down on the nonsense with Glass Onion from the band's self-titled White Album. With this track, Lennon set out to write a song that would both mock the skeptics and make artistically abstract music. Suffice to say, he succeeded. And that's our list. What do you think of these lyrics? Leave us a comment below and let us know. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. But for now, I've been Kirsten from What Culture, and I'll see you in the next video.